And I think it's got a lot to do with that. Women just feel like they don't match up. But the fact of the matter is, we men, we don't need the Instagram model. We don't care at all. So I think women are constantly trying to match up to that, aiming point of what a woman is supposed to look like. And it has gotten so astronomically unrealistic that I think it's driving women crazy and driving their insecurity. But the women need to realize that we're not looking for that. We don't care about that. We generally, we think you're very pretty the way you are. You don't have to look like a damn Instagram model.
Do you have any advice or resources for like helping couples communicate, or even individuals like jumping into a relationship? Like, what advice would you give them starting?
Well, it depends on what you mean. What do you mean by communication? Do you mean like talking out issues you have with one another, or do you mean sharing every little bit of information with each other? Are you talking about being a completely open book with one another?
Yes. So where my perspective is like, how do you see, like, do you feel like it's important to share all of your feelings with one another? Do you feel like it's important to be completely open and honest with how you're feeling, or like any positive or negative thoughts that you have throughout the day about your relationship, kind of in that aspect?
No. From a man's perspective, if it comes to raising and keeping the attraction of a woman, no. I don't think the man should be constantly expressing every feeling or thought he has towards the woman and towards the relationship that is going to lower her attraction and her interest, regardless of what anybody says it's going to, because that is a very feminine thing to do. And what women are looking for is a strong, emotionally centered, masculine man. And a man who is going to express every feeling and every negative thought he has towards a relationship. As humans, we have anxiety, we have problems, we have, we will second guess the relationship, but it's very feminine and unattractive from your side for the man to be expressing that consistently. I think if there is a obvious issue that must be worked on for the relationship to progress, yes, it should be talked about. But do I think that the man should be sharing all of his feelings with the woman? No. Do I feel that the woman should be sharing all of her feelings with the man? Not necessarily either. I think there needs to maintain some level of mystery there, because both men and women do enjoy a challenge, whether right or wrong, they do. And as long as there's some sort of, it's tough to say this, but men and women both seek validation. And when they get it, the mystery is gone, the chase is done, the challenge is over, and attraction is going to be lowered from there on out. So I believe each side needs to maintain some level of mystery, some level of privacy in order to have a successful relationship. If you're sharing everything with one another all day, texting, hey, I just went to Dunkin' Donuts and they messed up my coffee. Hey, now I'm pulling out of Dunkin' Donuts, I need to get gas, what are you up to? Like that kind of thing? No, it's not gonna last. But when it comes to more important topics, absolutely talk about them. Like if something is bothering somebody, bring it up, talk it out. But I don't think that absolutely everything needs to be shared.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I think it's hard for us women to think of it like that. I think that's why there's some problems when it comes to communication, because we don't see it from a male's perspective, and we don't see it as like, it's hard to think that you're constantly seeking validation when you're doing things like that. So what fears do you think men have when communicating? Like, do you think it's hard for them to bring up certain topics?
Yeah, I think the first fear men likely have through communicating is upsetting the woman and having it turn into a fight. Because, I don't mean this in any sort of derogatory way, but women are emotional by nature, and men tend to be more systematic and logically thinking. That's just how our brains work. It's a survival evolutionary mechanism. That's just how we work. So men probably, I know through my experience, could be a little bit fearful of saying the wrong thing and setting the woman off and having the fight go on for a long time. Because generally the woman, when it comes to a fight or an argument, a lot of the times it is the woman needs her emotions validated or something validated, and the man does not know how to do that. We've not been raised to do that. We just evolutionarily, biologically don't know how to do that. We're looking at it from a rational perspective, like, you know, she's mad I didn't take the garbage out today. Why is she so mad about the garbage? It's just the garbage. I took it out after she asked, but it's not the garbage. It is a compilation of things happening over the past couple of weeks that made the woman feel either unwanted, unheard, or insecure, and the garbage was her excuse to lay it on him. So when it comes to, you know, that sort of thing, I think men are just fearful of having the fight. Men want to be generally left alone. We're not emotional beings. We don't want to sit and talk about feelings. We don't. And if a man says he does, either he's a very feminine man or he's lying to you just to appease you. And, you know, that's the problem with the communication, is that we're looking at it from a different perspective. We're looking at it from different ways of thinking that aren't necessarily under our control. And, coming to a middle ground could be the tough part, but I think once two people learn how to come to that middle ground and how to talk it out, you know, both in a rational and an emotional way, those relationships might last. But I think it has a lot to do with the compatibility of the two people to begin with.
Yeah, and that does make a lot of sense. And I do see where you're coming from, where a lot of men could be fearful of that because of they're afraid to get an emotional response or how we would react.
Yeah, a huge piece of advice is they need to realize that, you know, from a woman's perspective, the man does not think or operate the same way they do. You need to understand that. So when the woman is sitting there thinking like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? You need to realize there's nothing wrong with him. He's just different. Men and women are different.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And, you know, a lot of the times in my own relationships, I've noticed that a woman would say I'm not communicating simply because I wasn't validating her, because she was seeking validation. She wanted me to say she was pretty, or say, you know, I like her nails, or constantly text her and tell her how much I care about her, blah, 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 blah. And if I wasn't doing that, I'm not communicating with her. So we need to define communication first. And if a woman is defining communication by, you know, her lack of communication, by her lack of validation, she's seeking this validation, which she's going to end up being unattractive to the guy anyway. But if we're looking at communication in terms of, okay, if we have issues, which should be seldom, they shouldn't be a regular occurrence. If they are, you're not compatible, get the hell out of there. Then what needs to be done is, if the woman needs or wants something, she needs to lay it out very simply, plain and clear, almost in a list fashion. Hey, this made me feel this way. I would like you to do this so I don't feel this way. Okay, good. Women don't like needy men, right?
Yeah.
What, let me ask you this. What is a needy man to you?
To me?
Yeah.
Needy in what way? Like needy in like bringing their emotions to me all at once, like constantly needing me to be around them, or like constantly needing my attention and validation from me through, like, to them? Like, what do you mean as a needy?
All that.
All of it?
You just answered the question. Yeah, I mean, that's neat.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's what I view as is needy. In some aspects, I do enjoy it. I do like the fact that, like, someone that I'm with does need me and does need me to, like, be there for them and does rely on me in some aspects. However, I can see if it's a constant thing, how it does degrade your relationship and how it does, like, push us farther because you're clinging to us. And so then we're like, okay, well, we need to take a step back because we're suffocating and we don't know where we're going. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
do you see how communication might lead to that? So if the man is constantly expressing his feelings and constantly communicating every thought and feeling he has to you, do you see how that might come off as neediness?
I think it depends on how it's constructed. So I feel like if you are texting me all day long just about your day in general, and not like your feelings through the day, like that you got coffee or that you got gas or that you're just doing simple tasks throughout the day. Like I do see that as being a problem because I don't need to know where you are 24/7 throughout the day. If I trust you and we're in a relationship, you can go do whatever you want to do. Like I don't need to know where you are every second of the day. But if something comes through your head at that moment of the day and like you have 3 or 4 thoughts that day that are troubling you or you're having doubts, like I do expect you to like bring that to my attention so we can work through that. Because if you don't, then it starts degrading our relationship. And then you start doubting if you should bring it up or it makes it worse.
Men might. Do you think, so you mentioned, 3 or 4 thoughts that are troubling you that day. Do you think that's normal?
I think it
like
just
on a daily basis or even a weekly basis for men to have thoughts about their relationship or about their significant other that is troubling them?
I do think there is occasionally like things that could be brought up that could bother you. I feel like if it's more than once a day, then there's obviously a core issue there that should be resolved because you shouldn't have constant doubts. But I could see where things get brought up throughout your day and you like second guess something or you just need validation to understand like their perspective.
Now, my perspective of somebody who has, I would say even once a month is too frequent for a guy to bring up an issue.
Really?
That's an insecure man is what that is. That is a man who is not confident in his ability to please you. That is a man who is not confident, fulfilled, and satisfied with his own life mission and purpose. That is a man who just doesn't feel confident. And he's going to be bringing up these issues because he is insecure. I think, honestly, a relationship should be relatively effortless. Almost entirely effortless. If there is any sort of bickering or miscommunication between one another, it's generally a manifestation of the insecurities behind one of the parties. And, we've gotten to this point, and here's the problem. We've created a society where men act like bitches, honestly. And they're so damn insecure that now we've almost come to expect that they're going to have a little issue that they need to talk with you about. No, that is not how men are supposed to operate. Men aren't supposed to be so goddamn emotional and so caught up in their emotions all day to where they're going to have something they need to talk about with you all week. That is feminine energy. That is feminine behavior. And when men start acting like that, women are repelled by them. Like, and here's the problem. Women think that they want this communication. They think that they want the man to express the feelings. But what women are attracted to and what they emotionally respond to is far different from what they think they want. What a lot of women think they want is what they've been brought up to believe they want. Disney movies, TV, where the man just is this beta. The man is stupid, the man is forgetful, unorganized, and the woman runs the house. And that is what's turned men into these feminine bitches, so to speak, that are constantly chasing a woman's validation in order to feel secure. And that's why you even think that a man having an issue and having to bring it up to you is even a problem. The girls I date, I never, ever say, hey, something's been bothering me. Can we talk? Absolutely not. What's bothering me? If there's something bothering me, it's my problem. There's something wrong with me. Generally, it's not something wrong with you, because if the woman is in her feminine energy and the man is in his masculine energy, there's going to be very few problems. If the man is in his feminine energy and the woman is in her masculine energy, boom. That's generally why that happens. And it's usually one party chasing validation from another. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do see that. I think I do agree with you, because I do think that a lot of relationships push their own insecurities onto the other person. So it does cause a lot of issues because you're seeking validation from someone who can't validate you. You have to validate yourself.
And I think women have been told or taught or brought up to expect a certain amount of validation from men. And when they don't get it, they feel like they should leave. But I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of women stay with men who are complete assholes. So that kind of proves that point wrong, because actually the lack of validation and constant ass kissing is actually attractive. So there's this confusion between they think they should be getting this, but at the same time they're attracted to not getting it all the time. Obviously you don't want to treat a woman like trash. You just don't want to put her on a pedestal and kiss her ass all the time. She does not want to be the center of your world. No matter how much women have been taught that they should be, they don't like that. From my experience and from most of what I've learned over the years.
I do feel like we should validate each other in a relationship and uplift each other, but that should not be your source of happiness.
Right.
That should not be like my core reason for staying is because you make me feel good all the time. Because at one point you're not going to make me feel good all the time. And then what? Do I just leave? Which is what is happening in society.
Right. That's the thing. Women, this is a controversial thought, but women don't necessarily love you. They love the way you make them feel. And when you stop making them feel that way, gone.
I think the breakup in communication is that we don't understand each other. I don't understand a male's perspective because I'm a female. I am completely in my perspective, and I would assume a man would act the same way that I do, and men assume that we see things the same way that they do. So I do think it's a breakdown of not understanding one another, and the more you understand and work towards understanding each other's perspective and the way that males think and the way that females think, it will solve your problem.
Well, here's the thing. So coming back to validation, this is not a popular topic, but
Okay.
I recently dated a girl. Please don't watch this. Anyway, recently dated a girl that constantly, I didn't give her any validation. You're going to hate this. I know, I'm sorry. But purposefully, never really commented on how good she looked, never called her pretty, never expressed my feelings to her, never even told her I liked her, to the point where one day she said, you know, I'm not going to see you until you like my picture and tell me you like me.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And she came over that night. So the fact of the matter is, women seek validation. And it's not a very good idea to give it to them all at once. Maybe little bits at a time, because once a woman feels completely validated by you, you may know this, they've got you, and there's no more mystery. Once the man regains his masculine frame, he's going to have far less issues with the woman, which means the woman's going to have far less issues with the man, and it's going to sail very smoothly. Like I said, there shouldn't be this lack of communication to begin with. When a man is in his masculine energy and a woman is in her feminine energy, it's effortless. And it's been my experience in the past. In the past, I've, validated women quite a bit, say, oh my God, you're so beautiful, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, and texted them all the time, wanted to be with them all the time, wanted to constantly hang out with them all the time. It collapsed. Kind of pulled away from that, started acting like a man in the relationship, maintaining a masculine frame, being on my purpose, being on my mission. All my energy is guided towards the purpose and mission. Believe it or not, like, the woman comes second. And they're like that. The woman wants to be second, because the second a man makes the woman everything in his life, she's going to hate it. And that's what men need to realize too. Don't make the woman your entire life. Not only is it going to ruin your life, because you're going to fall away from your purpose and things that are going to make you feel fulfilled as a man, but the woman is going to be less attracted to you, and that relationship's going to fall apart. And maybe the feminist movement kind of made men believe that they need to put the woman first. You need to put her on a pedestal. You need to, make her feel amazing at all times and put her first, and it's backfiring.
Do you think social media affects the outlook on communications or how individuals communicate?
Yeah. it's a very easy form of superficial validation for women. And biochemically, you get a little dopamine response every time you get a like, every time you get a DM, even though it's a creep and you don't want them, you don't want those DMs, you like it. Let's be honest, you do. And I think that is going to get in the way of the relationship a lot more than any sort of kind of confusion through communication. All in all, social media is just a bad thing for relationships, honestly. I think social media should be used. I don't think you should display your personal life as much as it does. I think you should keep some things, you know, kind of mysterious. But does that answer your question? I'm not really sure what. Did you have kind of like a answer in mind, or a couple of answers that you were thinking I might say? Because I'm not really sure.
Yes, that's actually everything you said was actually exactly what I was thinking, because I do think media kind of gives you this false happy fairy tale. And when you're sitting at home scrolling through it and you see all these couples and you're like, oh, they love each other. Oh, they're always doing this. Or you just create all these things like, oh, in my relationship, I don't go on vacation. Or we don't do things like this. And then you start like breaking down your relationship, and it creates all this negative impact when that couple on vacation isn't even happy. Like all those pictures aren't even real. Like that was a fake picture and you don't see that.
And then you get a nice case of grass is greener syndrome.
Yes.
So what you're seeing is, oh man, my normal relationship doesn't match up to their fairy tale relationship. This one, there must be something wrong with this one.
Yeah.
Maybe I should seek a different one. Maybe I'll answer this DM. Maybe I'll go on that date. And that's where you start having these relationships fall apart almost as soon as they come together. You know, I have this one particular friend of mine. Once a year, she gets a new boyfriend. Pictures everywhere. And I love you, blah, blah, blah. You're so great. You're so this. And then drop off.
Yeah.
3-4 months, new boyfriend. Bing, all over social media. And I almost feel like some women, men too, maybe, get in relationships just for the validation of the social media, just to appear happy, to appear to have a great life. Because every time you get that like, every time you get that notification, that DM, you're getting a little dopamine response to make you feel happy. And it gets addictive. Dopamine's addictive. Why do you think drugs are addictive? It's not the drug, it's the dopamine response from the drug. And I think social media is acting in that way. It's terrible. But personally, you know, you can't tell everyone this and tell them that, you know, what they're doing is wrong. So personally, I just kind of stay off it as much as I can. But listen, that's the reality of the situation. And if you want to have a healthy, successful relationship, cutting out social media is probably a decent approach.
Yeah, I do think that's too. I think if a lot more relationship posted the good and the negative all at the same time, like you would have a totally different perspective on your relationship that you're currently in, because then you see both sides instead of just one. I do think a lot of women go through social media and we see all these things that we think men want. So then it creates doubts and expectations that we set for ourselves that men don't actually set for us. But in our heads, we're like, oh yeah, of course they want this, but they really don't. So then that creates insecurities and we start seeking validation. And if men aren't giving us validation, then we have all these problems with communication and problems within ourselves. And then we second guess everything and we start breaking down our relationship even more. And then there's, at the end of the day, after all of your insecurities, after he doesn't talk to me, he doesn't validate me, he doesn't actually love me. When you get to that point, you don't see a reason to stay because you don't see that the actual problem is that you are comparing yourself to social media and all these unrealistic expectations. For women to be, for communication to fail in a relationship, if it's the man's primary job to be secure and to lead, and the woman shouldn't have any issues, but then they're coming insecure and the relationship is ending, like what could we do? Because if it is primarily on you and we can't do anything, then why are we still insecure? Why are those problems still there? Does that make sense?
Right.
Sorry, I can't.
The problem is women in society are, women are in society are beauty objects and men have become success objects. So women are placing a huge amount of value on their appearance. Now, when you are scrolling through Instagram and Twitter, whatever, and you're seeing all these fake pictures of ridiculously beautiful women, it's driving you crazy inside. And I think that is what is generating the huge amount of insecurity. I don't think this amount of insecurity in women has been, I think it's very new. And I think it's got a lot to do with that. Women just feel like they don't match up. But the fact of the matter is, we men, we don't need the Instagram model. We don't care at all. So I think women are constantly trying to match up to that, aiming point of what a woman is supposed to look like, and it has gotten so astronomically unrealistic that I think it's driving women crazy and driving their insecurity. But the women need to realize that we're not looking for that. We don't care about that. We generally, we think you're very pretty the way you are. You don't have to look like a damn Instagram model. But women are constantly striving for that, and I think that's what's deriving the insecurity and causing a lot of the problems too. And again, with men on the other side, all men think they need to be 25 and millionaires with a Lamborghini. If they're not, they feel very insecure. And I can almost attest for you that women probably don't expect that either. You know, men don't expect the Instagram model. Women don't expect the 25-year-old with the Lamborghini. We need to bring ourselves back down to reality here and, you know, give ourselves realistic expectations for one another. And I honestly think a lot of the media is making us feel this way. So one solution to that problem is to, you know, coherently understand that the Instagram and the social media is absolute bullshit. Just ignore it or get off it. I think it's very healthy. I got off of Instagram for an entire year. I'm like, this is poison. Deleted it. Because what's the point? You're just going to feed yourself unrealistic expectations and just indoctrinate your subconscious mind to believe that that's what you're supposed to be. And I think a lot of the problems arise from that. For you personally to get into a relationship, what's your motivation? What are you getting in the relationship for?
To have someone there for me, to have someone there that I can talk to and that I can rely on and that I can build a future with.
Okay. So what are you, so do you ever go into a relationship thinking about what you're going to bring to the relationship or only what you're going to get out of it?
No, obviously I'm not just going to go to a relationship and be like, I need all of you and I'm just going to sit here by myself. Nothing. So what I would bring into a relationship would be, I'm very heartless. So I put the other person above myself, like 100%. And I am very caring and I feel like I bring a lot of, I know emotional isn't really like what the men are seeking, but logically, if you're all logic and you have no emotion whatsoever, like how are you going to raise your family without all of that love and compassion? So I feel like in a marriage, that emotional side is necessary. And for me personally, I am very emotional. So I feel like that is a good aspect to bring to a family. And that's what I do bring, because I don't want to get into a relationship to not have that family to not have that family perspective in mind. So that's why I would do a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the problem people have is generally, especially in today's society, they're seeking relationships to satisfy an insecurity. They're trying to get something out of it. They're trying to fill a hole, fill a void with the other person, rather than getting into a relationship and seeing what they can give to the relationship. Nobody's ever even thought of that. Getting into a relationship and seeing how much you can give. Because if both parties are giving themselves to one another, the relationship is going to work a lot better. If both parties are in there to try to receive or get something out of it or fulfill some kind of insecurity, it's going to be absolute chaos. So what you bring to it is feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
And what you're looking for, you want to bring love, care, support to the man. And the man, what would you like to see out of the man?
I would like to see someone who is also supportive, but who can lead me in the right direction. Because obviously where I think more emotionally, like I'm not going to have the best sense of judgment when it comes to things because my feelings are the first thing that pop into my mind. So I would need that strong sense of guidance to help me get through life's troubles. And I would need someone there essentially just to be like a backbone for me. Yeah.
Right. So those are, unfortunately, the society has kind of reversed gender roles. The man's appropriate gender role is the leader. He's on his mission,
Yes.
and he's there to provide. Now that's, as you can see, is very attractive to the woman, and the woman is there to provide support to the man, raise the family, etc. This is where the nuclear family works. This is when this works. The problem that's coming about now is that women are becoming more focused on their careers and trying to be the man. The woman is now the mission-driven, purpose-driven leader because society has told her that she should be, or she could be, so maybe she should be.
Yeah.
And now what does that do for the man? No man. A man wants to date somebody like you. They want to date somebody who is emotional, who is caring. The man's going to go out and slay his dragons all day, beat his ass to death to provide for the family. And when he comes home, he wants to have his head scratched. That's the man. That men, masculine men, not to toot my own horn, but they want to go do that.
Yeah.
And the woman is supposed to provide the emotional backbone to the relationship. But what's happened now is the women, feminism has, kind of taught women that they need to put their career first and the family second. No man wants to date a woman like that. No man wants to date a woman with more masculine energy than him. So if you got two men going out and slaying the dragons, who's there for the emotional backbone and the emotional support? Nobody. That's a lot of the problems we're having with breakups, marriages that don't last. It's this this upside down or gender role reversal. And, unfortunately, there aren't too many women like you out there to recognize this, or maybe there are women out there, but they're kind of indoctrinated to think the other way. And that's what happens too. That's why a lot of breakups happen, because what you emotionally respond to is what you emotionally respond to, regardless of what the media tells you. Yeah. So you're fighting for your career. You've got this great job. And, then you date a man who you unknowingly made submit to you based on your masculine driven personality. And you're like, this guy's a pussy. And then you dump him. So, and that's the problem we're coming up with. I mean, a lot of my friends, like, they just kind of, more or less let their women or their wife just walk all over them. It's like, you're the man in the relationship, you lead, and women are happy to follow. That doesn't mean that women are inferior to men. Yeah. That's just what works, regardless of what people say.
Yeah, and I do think it's crazy to think that if you look for what we seek that leader and that provider. And for men, you don't seek that. You don't seek a woman who is independent, owns her own business, and is just as successful as you are. You seek someone who can stay at home and love your children and care for you in ways that you don't let the world know that you need cared for. So it's crazy that we are totally opposite, but society tells you that as a woman, you should want those things. Like, you should want to be independent. You should want to own your own business. You should want to be more successful or just as successful as men, because you can be, instead of showing you that even though you can do those things and you want to do those things, that's not what you need for your life, your end goal.
But like, intuitively and intrinsically, that's not what makes a woman happy. What makes a woman happy is emotion-based things, family, children, that sort of thing is what makes a woman happy. Just because, it's funny because there's always this argument that there aren't as many women CEOs as there are men CEOs. Yeah. Listen, a CEO isn't a fucking lottery ticket. That's an 80, 90-hour-a-week job. And you're going to get fired in 3 years anyway. They make it out to be like it's prestigious and you've won the lottery because you're a CEO. Nobody, a very small percentage of people, men or women, would even want to or could tolerate being the CEO. And that's the problem we've come to now, is that now women are almost chasing their careers to prove a point. Listen, you don't need to prove a point. We know you could do it, and we know you don't want to. Because once you get there, you're 40 years old, you're making $250,000 a year, and you got nothing. You don't have a kid, you don't have a family, you've got your career, and you've realized it didn't make you happy. So now what we've got to do is remind women that that isn't necessarily your happiest route. For a man, for masculine energy, that will make him happy. A man being a stay-at-home dad will not, hopefully. Yeah. Well, maybe men these days because they're bitches, but most men, that would not make them happy. They'd be looking for something else. Men want to go slay the dragons. Women want to stay home and take care of the family. Both very important roles. One role is not more important than the other. We've made it seem like the earning role or the working role is more important than the other. It is absolutely not. I couldn't do a woman's job. Kidding me? Lose my mind. So that's why it balances out and it works. But now with the gender roles reversing, everybody's a little bit confused, and it's funneling into the dating world. The men are sending dick pics. Like, what is that? So here's another thing about that. I was talking to a client about this earlier, like men sending dick pics. So men are attracted through their eyes, beauty. Mm-hmm. Women are attracted through their ears. Yeah. Men are so stupid that they think women are also attracted through their eyes. So like a man would get a naked selfie and he'd be like, oh God, she's so amazing. They think women respond the same way, so they send dick pics.
It is very controversial. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about it this way. Man loses his job, gets cancer, loses his legs. I don't really see the women sticking around. They generally don't. I don't think women love you. I think they love the way you make them feel.
See, for me, I fall in love with people's souls. So if you don't things, so if you don't have those things, or if you end up losing something, I could not imagine myself leaving, because at the end of the day, I still love you for you, not because you brought me all these nice, awesome things, or you had two legs to stand on. So, but I could see how a few people, or like women in society, are like that. And I think it just goes back to like your initial thought process on everything.
I would say probably most are like that. So you're a unicorn. So congratulations. Problem is the men, unfortunately. The lack of communication is a result of the men not maintaining their masculine frame. So if the man maintains his masculine frame and his masculine energy, the woman will be in her masculine frame and masculine energy, and there will be no lack of communication. The problem lies where the women have been led to believe that there needs to be a lot of communication. There does not need to be, and there should not be, a tremendous amount of feeling sharing and emotion sharing. Over time, since they are different, the man is trying to express himself emotionally, which he sucks at, to the woman, and the woman doesn't understand it. Boom, lack of communication. The problem there is that the communication in general is misunderstood. Yeah, if there's issues, communicate them, talk about them, sort them out. But the man should not be sharing too many of his feelings with the woman. The woman could share her feelings with the man. That's kind of, how they're, biologically, evolved to do. But I think the lack of communication problem is men bitching too much and women being like annoyed with it and then trying to sort it out and then not being able to. I think once each party maintains their perspective, masculine and feminine frame, I don't think lack of communication would ever be a problem. In the past year, dating women, I've not had a problem with that at all whatsoever, because I've known how to maintain my masculine frame, which in turn allows the woman to maintain her feminine frame, and they just mesh. That's how confused men are right now. And they need somebody to tell them that they're wrong and they're confused. They need someone to teach them. A lot of them, again, didn't have strong father figures to teach them this sort of thing, but And that's what it's funneling into the dating world. And men meet a women, they have no fucking idea what to do. And then they end up losing them, and then they get miserable and depressed, and then they hate women, they hate the world, and then you have the men going their own way movement. That's what happens.
Yeah, I do think it's very important to communicate like the different roles and like how you view things, because if you don't view things the same way, you're not compatible. Like if I feel like an emotional background is more important to raise a family, and you think it's logically more important for you to raise a family because that's how you see it, we're not going to be compatible in actually raising a family and growing together.
Well,
so,
what do you mean by that?
Like
what is an example of a logical approach to raising a family versus an emotional approach?
I think that as children, they need more like love and compassion. Like, okay, so, you know, like in the memes and stuff like that, or even like, I'm sure you've experienced it, where like a child would fall down and a mom freaks out. Like, we lose our minds because our child is hurting. And then the father's like, get up, you're okay, it's not a big deal. Like, well, sometimes children seek that. Like, they need that mom to just grab them up and reassure them that they are okay and not everything is a big deal. But at the same time, if they do get hurt, they have someone there for them. Mm-hmm. So if you're constantly reassuring them that if they're constantly getting hurt or they're constantly getting their feelings hurt, and you're like, it's fine, just ignore it, it's okay, it's just a bump, you're fine, let's go. Well, as they get older, that's what they're going to think growing up. They're not going to have emotion behind them. They're not going to be emotionally driven in any aspect. Do you understand?
How do you know that's true, though? So we'll think about it this way.
That's like, just how I feel in my perspective.
It might be true, but struggle is the fuel that drives the engine of growth. Mm-hmm. It's just what it is. So when you fall down and bump that knee, it's going to make you tougher for when you bang your head, which is going to make you tougher for when you break your collarbone, which is going to make you tougher for when you get evicted. You know what I mean? Like, it's a stepping stone. If you coddle your child every time something bad happens, they're going to be looking for that. And then when they don't have you to coddle them, they're going to break down. Hence, probably the huge amount of depression throughout the country. It probably has something to do with that. People don't understand how to handle struggle or adversity. Personally, the way I see struggle and adversity, I'm just like, nothing like biting off more than you can chew and chewing it anyway. I just love it. You look at it as a learning experience. Yeah. I had two very strong male figures growing up, my uncle and my father. And they were hey, yeah, that hurts, brush it off. Don't be a bitch. Yeah. And now I'm, late 20s, own 2 businesses. I'm doing far better than all of my friends. Mm-hmm. I'm not married. I guess maybe that could be viewed as a success or, a lack of success. But I think that emotional toughness from having to brush it off growing up led to the emotional toughness and psychological toughness, because, as a business owner and an entrepreneur and all the things I've done, there's more hard times than there are good. And if I'd been coddled my whole life by mommy, I would have collapsed, and I would have probably been, working at Chipotle right now, just blaming everyone else for my problems.
Yeah. Well, so you said you had 2 very strong men in your life to guide you. Well, do you think you would have the same outlook on life today if those men were raising you at home while your mom was working and running her own business?
Well, you do need, you need both figures. You need the mother figure, because I think for a man, the father figure is more important than the mother figure. I think maybe also for a woman too. I mean, when women grow up with strong father figures, they tend to be more emotionally level-headed than those who don't. Because the father is going to be their rock. It's going to be the person they go to when things are bad. It's going to be their everything is okay, lack of better word, safe space. And without that, I don't think women know how to handle those emotions, because they're getting, if they have an emotional response to something, they're going to ask their mother, who's also going to have an emotional response to something, which may not be the right approach. But
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'm so thankful for you here talking to me today. And hopefully we can help a few people in their relationships guide the way. That's all the questions I have for you.
We really didn't even disagree.
I
We
know.
didn't disagree
we really
because
didn't.
you are a woman who is in her feminine energy, and I'm a man who is in my masculine energy. And I think when people see this, they're going to see the cooperation we just had. And it's because we assumed our natural gender roles. And the more people can do that, the more successful the relationships are going to be, the less, God forbid, domestic abuse there's going to be, the less problems, the less lack of communication. We just need to find our gender roles again, assume them, and look, we had an effortless conversation. These are the conversations I have with women. I don't fight with women. I can't remember the last time I fought with a woman. And that's because I'm maintaining my masculine frame, which in turn will allow her to maintain her feminine frame, and things go silky smooth. Because I mean, if she was in the 518 right now, we'd be going out tomorrow night. What was the worst date you've ever had?
The worst date I've ever had?
Yeah.
I actually went to Bob Evans with this guy, and he like said maybe 3 words to me the whole time, and like finished eating, and I wasn't done, and was like, "Okay, are you done?" And I'm like, "Well, I am now." So then I literally, yeah, it was super awkward. So that was probably the worst date I've ever had, because it was like really rude and inconsiderate and super awkward for me. Like I was super awkward and uncomfortable because I've never had a man just be like, "Well, I'm finished, so are you done?" As I'm like in the middle of like eating my food. Like, "Well, yeah, I think I'm gonna go home now since you're done and haven't even said anything to me."
How did you meet this individual?
Through social media.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So they portrayed themselves a little different on social media than they were in person.
Yeah.
And then you texted them for a while, and how'd that work? Did you guys chat throughout the day?
Yeah,
or
actually weird. I think we talked for like 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, before we even had a date. And then we went on
he
a
didn't
date.
set a date until 3 weeks?
No, it wasn't even like we were talking for 2 days and then went on a date. Like we were just texting for a few weeks, and then we went on a date, and I'm like, okay, this is not abort mission. Like this is not who you were to the phone. Like you're a totally different person. And mentally, I was like, I cannot do this.
So there was something he did through text messaging that raised your attraction enough to go on a date with him.
Yeah.
What do you think that was?
Probably just talking and being there. Like when you don't see someone, or I mean, you know what they look like, but you don't know what they look like in person. Like pictures are different than in person. So words are all that you have. So if someone's like willing to like talk to you and listen and basically like give you advice and kind of be your friend, you're more likely to be attracted to them. And so I think that's kind of what it was. It's just like a baseline of solid friendship that led to attraction. And
he was your male girlfriend is what he was. And you figured you might meet him. And then when you met him, you realized, yeah, he's definitely a male girlfriend. That's another thing too. Men cannot be the woman's male girlfriend. Talking about everything, obviously giving advice, but I imagine you guys are like, "Hey, how's your day going? Good. How are you? This would work, blah, 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 blah." And you did that for 3 weeks, and he became your male girlfriend. You became friends. You're like, "Oh, well, I enjoy talking to this person. Maybe I'll meet him." And then you meet him, and you realize he's a complete douche. Yeah. A real man with a masculine frame would get your number, say, hey, this is Jay. What's up? So when are you free? Blah, 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 blah. What do you say we go get a drink Friday or Saturday night? Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Yeah. You meet each other through person. You don't have to be pen pals for 3 weeks before you meet each other. And that's just a very crappy way to start it. And as you can tell, like now you'll know for the future, if you're going to be a pen pal with someone for 3 weeks, it's not going to turn into a good date because he obviously doesn't have the confidence to even ask you out.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and the reason he was quiet is because he was incredibly inconfident. Probably didn't look at you either, did he? Did he look you in the eyes one time? Okay.
No.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, that long texting thing, that's a red flag in of itself. You know, but personally, bad date.
Yes, I would love to hear your terrible date.
Haven't had one. I
You
can't
can't
remember.
say that. You can't
No,
think of
because
one thing.
nope, because when I take a girl out, I have fun. We have fun. Even if I hate you, we're still gonna have fun. I already scheduled this time. I don't have a lot of time. We're gonna have fun. I cannot remember.
You mean to tell me that
Nope.
you've never had one negative Nancy? Even if you were having the best time of your life, you didn't have one person who's like, I kind of don't want to do it, but yeah, I guess. Like, that was just stomping their feet around.
Nope. Really haven't. Really haven't. I mean, let me think. Last date. Yeah, last date. Wasn't really interested in. I mean, she was cute. Wasn't really interested in her. We went and had a couple drinks. I had a couple glasses of whiskey. We chatted, had fun, and just kind of went our separate ways. And you know, I wasn't really interested after that. But I still enjoyed. You know, still had a good time myself. Made sure she had a good time. And you know, it's a fun-filled evening. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be Bob Evans eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
Are you done? Like, you know, and that's another thing. Men don't know how to construct dates. They don't know how to be, the lack of charisma is pretty bad too. They don't know how to, you know, just go out and have fun with a woman. It's not, hey, let me just try to validate myself with you and make you like me so that way maybe you'll get naked later. No, you go have fun. That's where it starts. And a lot of men are kind of missing this too. And I've approached dates that way for as long as I can remember. And to be honest, I haven't had a bad one. I literally can't remember.